Greetings, back warriors, back with another episode of Warriors, Vigor Warriors 2. And I have to drive somewhere, so I'm going to do one more video. Since I'm going to take a couple days off on Sunday and Monday here, I'm going to go do a bunch of videos today, and then I'll take a couple days off and get back to it as I go into meditation, different types of things I'm going to do. So, thank you once again for a subscription. Subscribe and like and comment. I appreciate all that. This question goes back to a question I had about the Fountain of Youth videos that I was doing. And I want to just talk about some other types of things that are associated with this that the book talks about. Once again, this is the Ancient Secrets of the Fountain of Youth, and by Peter Kelder. And I would highly recommend it. I'll put the link on Amazon as well, so you have that to be able to look at and find it. But it's not that expensive a book, but I think it's got loads of experience. And I, going back to my history of it, 1998, I believe it was, that I really kind of got some notifications from doctors that if I didn't really take care of myself, and I was only about 30 some years old, 5 years old, something like that, in my 30s, I would have not, I may not even be here. It's just a dramatic increase. And the book talks about that fact that you can be a healthy and, wise and prosperous and things like that if you do these exercises. And so I did those, not knowing anything really about brahmacharya or sophism or celibacy, those type of things. I knew this in the Catholic Church that I grew up with, and I knew that it was important to kind of focus on it, but I had no idea about energy and chakras and all that kind of stuff that's important. And though there's still some skepticism, people are skeptical of this, and it's not really as scientific as people like to have it, I just instinctively believe it's true. And I've seen this over the last number of years. So since 1998, I've done these type of things and these exercises, the 5 of them. The 5 of the ones I focused on. The 6th one, of course, was tough because the 6th one really is, retention. And so that was a tough one, right? And so I struggled with that, going back and forth. I got some progress, and then I relapsed, and progress and relapsed, and all those kind of things. And so I learned a lot of things in trying to use these exercises. But I've been trying to do these things religiously since, for the last 20 some years now, right? 23 years, 24 years. And it's been amazing. I have a lot of hair, which who knows if I would have had hair or not. I think that a lot of those type of things, my skin cleared up tremendously from what I had. I had injuries, my knees and legs and things from football, and those things went away. No arthritis. And so the exercise, I think the exercises are fundamental because they work on the chakras. And once again, those 7 chakras are very important. You have root chakra, you have one that's in your, your sexual glands. Down there is the second one, and they go up all to the throat and the head and those type of things. And so the first exercise obviously works on rotation and works on the idea of kind of getting that chakra. And we'll talk about a separate one on chakras, but the idea is that you're trying to, your energy sources. So they have done research to show that people obviously are not just physical beings. There's something inside of, and you know this when people pass away. When people die, all of a sudden there's something else there, because that energy source or something leaves it. It's almost like we don't actually know that much how the ignition switch goes with a car that just starts that engine, that spark. It's almost like the spark with us. We're not too sure what that spark is inside of us, but something is there, and we can't see it, so it's hard to identify it. But that's the idea that happens when you're living and doing things. There's a spirit, in my mind, soul, whatever you want to call it, an energy source that comes from you. And you have a lot of energy, and so you're kind of like a furnace that just needs to have fire put into it. And what ends up happening is that you become stronger and stronger and more energy if you keep your energy. This is why we talk about all the stuff about keeping your vital force and retaining and all this kind of stuff. But the thing is that those chakras rotate, and they rotate around you in your system. Now, you may not want to believe this, but the idea then is if you continue to do things to rotate those things around, then you're going to be healthier. And so as you get older, those things spin slowly, and especially if you don't exercise. I go back to that movie, that Willy Wonka Chocolate Factory. There's a great scene of these parents sitting in the bed, and they haven't moved for years, and they can't move now because they have so much atrophy that they can't just move, because they haven't used their muscles and they haven't gotten anything within their system to rotate those chakras. And that's why these exercises are important. The spinning around. You look at ballet dancers; those people are, they look tremendous. Even as they get older, if they continue doing it. And there's something called the whirling dervishes. We'll talk about with Sufism, and the idea that those things create those chakra movements that really go. And I truly believe this. I mean, after 23 years, I have just seen great benefits in my health. And I've seen people tell me all these type of things. And you look at the book, they got a lot of testimonials in there and things like that. So that's important. Now, along with that, exercises, obviously nutrition's important. So we talked about a little bit of that, but I want to kind of focus on making sure you realize that you're not supposed to be eating a lot of heavy foods. The Western world, the problem we have is people eating way too much food. And it's not good for the digestive system. And of course, matching proteins with, meats and things like that is not good. And I love this idea of trying to break out those things. And so part of my keto that I work through is just eating certain types of foods. I don't have a lot of carbs, so meats, vegetables, those type of things I think are crucial, but eating them separately is even better. And so when you have a hamburger, that's like a killer. Or like, for instance, coffee in the morning with, Dunkin' Donuts or donuts. It's like wrestling a sumo wrestler, right? You're going to be getting killed. And then you sit there, and it takes a long time for you to get that energy back, because the carbs, the sugar, all these things kill you. And they're sitting there dragging you down. Now you feel dragged down, and as soon as you have a big meal, you feel like sleeping. This is the reason why. And this is why you end up getting heavy, and you lose that. So I think there's a lot of good recommendations in that book with that idea of nutrition. Now, once again, there's another one that we didn't talk that much about, and that's the mantras. And I use those every so often. I don't use them as much as I probably should use those, but using mantras helps with the throat type of chakra. Keep that going. So something like or those type of things are mantras that you can have, and they talk about this in the book, that you can actually use to go ahead and get that throat chakra rotated. Now, all these things that you're doing with the chakras are really designed to keep you in health and keep your health. And so even though you may have a sniffle like I do, you never really get sick, because you're continuing that benefit. And I think God has given us all these type of things to benefit us. The hair we have, the knowledge we get as we go through in our life, and those type of things. So there's some questions on using chakras. I use them in the morning only because that's easier for me. They don't take that long, gang. You're not talking about a long time they take. They may take 10 minutes, especially as you go up the ladder. I started slow. I started with 3, and I think that's the recommendation they make. Start with 3, and then at that point you go every week, you do one more, and then you try to add to it. And I would take them slow. So there's some key things here when it comes to the exercise. So take them slow, and just don't rush through them. Take them slow. They're not that difficult until you kind of put them together, and you got to put them together in combination. So you do the spin first. Then you go down and do the leg lift, the second one, and then you sit on your knees and you back, take your back, and then you go ahead and kind of get your hands forward and lift your whole body. And the last one is you're doing the doggy down and up, with the other 5. And then certainly if you have any sort of sexual type of thing going through your mind or temptation, you do the sixth one, in which you're standing up and you're trying to transmute that stuff up through your body and those type of things. So I do them in the morning. I always try to do a little bit at night if I can as well. You don't really need to do more than 21, it says in the book, but I kind of do that because I just like to continue with doing it. And I think at some point you may end up getting, especially with the spinning one, the first one, you may get a lot of, like the whirling dervishes did back in the old days with it. You may just get yourself a whole different type of mindset if you do a lot of those. I've done 200-300 of those at one time, and I tell you, you do get a little different feeling when you do that. But I wouldn't recommend that, especially if you're just starting out, because as the book talks about, there's things that you can go in there and you're doing too much of those things, and you're not built yourself up to that. It could hurt you, at least initially. And certainly you should check with your doctor on a lot of that stuff, especially if you're older, like in my age group. You should check with those things to see, making sure the doctor's okay with it. But I've seen a lot of doctors say great things about these exercises. I mean, it really kind of goes back to the core. Exercises with the core, making sure your stomach and that means your back is straight, so you're not going to have back problems. You're not going to have all the kinds of issues that you would normally have as you're getting older. And so what you're doing is you're kind of stalling or stopping the aging process so that you can enjoy life a lot more. And so like I said, I'm very flexible now at 60. I wasn't very flexible at 20. And I think that's why I got a lot of football injuries, because I just wasn't very flexible. I had no idea about any of this stuff until like 1998, until I started reading this book. And I had no idea about flexibility and things like that, and trying to look at that. So the mantras help. The food obviously helps. Using it, you can do it at night or during the day. I do it early in the morning only because that's kind of the time that I'm up. I get up early and do those type of things, so that's when I tend to do that. And then I focus on the rest of my day. But I feel great once I do those things. I feel very good. If I don't do those things, it happens, and you can miss a day here and there, but certainly you don't want to get in a pattern of not doing them, because once you do those things, then you feel great. And I also have a big ball that I have, and I lay back on the ball, and it helps my back as well. The trouble is, as you get older, people feel like they shouldn't be doing this more. They're going to hurt themselves, and it's just a bad assumption people make. Because what happens is that you really hurt yourself through disuse, like that example with the parents in the Willy Wonka movie. They did not use their muscles or anything, and they didn't get those chakras going, and so they look older and they get older. And so when the chakras slow down, in the book, they talk about that's when the aging process goes on. And if you keep those chakras moving all day long, and you don't need a lot of repetitions to do it, then you stay younger, or you should get younger, type of thing. And it's not only how you look, but it's certainly your attitude and things like that too. So that's one of the things I've used for the last 20 some years. And in my mind, even though I may look 60, I feel like I'm 25 years old. And I felt like that for many, many years. And as long as I continue doing it, if I don't do it, then all of a sudden I run into problems. Because then all of a sudden I start feeling things that remind me of the old days. So I have to continue doing these, and I'm going to do these the rest of my life. Now I've added to this over the last 475 days, I've added to this the retention, that number 6. And then that has just made me a whole different person. So once again, I recognize that I wasn't going through all 6 of them the way I should have in the past, but I just didn't have that kind of level of control. And I think God has given me the idea now that I can control it, and so it's a much better thing. For some of you younger people, try it, guys. Work on it. Do the exercises now. You get to the point where you actually can start learn how to control that and take that retention step by step your journey. Then you'll find you'll be doing number 6 as well. All right, so those are some of the key points on the book. I would highly recommend the book, guys. It's a great book. And if you have more questions, let me know. But certainly doing those in the morning, following the food nutritions, all those type of things can help you. And then obviously the retention is the key one to kind of make yourself into the superhuman person you can be, and being like that God with the energy and keeping your vital force. Until next time, battle on, warriors, battle on.